Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of The Way Jacob Sees It. I'm your host, Jacob Pankin. This is a little beat I made with my XR20 Akai Beat Production Center and my Yamaha electric keyboard. I'm going to let you guys enjoy. Alright, so that was a little beat that I compiled together in about 10 or so minutes. I like doing little quick beats like that. That was a 3-part harmony with my voice on it. Came out pretty well. Sometimes I can be a bit flat, so I have to redo it, but that came out pretty well. So that was fun to make. That was with one of the vibraphone settings on the Yamaha. It sounded really nice, a really nice vibrato that it actually employs. So really great piano. I love my Yamaha. So thanks for joining me if you're listening. Hope you've had a great week. Hope you've had a chance to learn, love, spread some laughter, try some new things, get out of your comfort zone. Last week I had the wonderful Kate Bird on as a guest, and I said I would be talking about Europe, and alas, I am. Tomorrow I am traveling overseas to London and Paris with my family for the first time. I've only ever been out of the country to Mexico, so this should be a very interesting experience. A lot of really interesting historical things going on right now, some tragic, some a bit tense. One of them being the beautiful Notre Dame Cathedral burned down the other day. They don't know the cause of the fire yet. They don't know the origins of it. Could be a number of things, but the church itself is around 800 years old or so. It was built between the 12th and the 14th centuries, and many Parisians watched as the spire collapsed and were praying all together in sort of solace to kind of boost the morale of the city. So it's going to be interesting to be there in about a week's time and see how the mood of the city is. Parisians haven't had the best luck in the past, so my condolences go out to anyone that was really deeply affected. It's truly a tragedy. What a beautiful church. There's even a cartoon made about it called The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Great Disney film. I have it on VHS. I think it was translated digitally. And then sort of but this sister city that we're traveling to, London, as an effort to leave the EU. If you've been following Brexit, the vote has been pushed back to October, so there's been a lot of protests ensuing over there. So we might be in the heart of that. We might experience the brunt of that when we're going over there. And I think it's debatable whether or not Americans get treated differently or necessarily on an equal plane when traveling overseas. I think some may be regarded as ignorant or maybe a little more loud or aggressive than some people in Europe are, maybe less progressive, maybe a little more narrow-minded. And funny enough, I'm doing a little bit of data collection in America and in the 2 countries that I'm visiting. As part of a project, I'm compiling 5 words which are xenophobic, independent, competitive, friendly, and I can't remember the last one right now. It slips my mind. But anyway, I'm compiling these 5 words, and I'm going to have I created a table on Microsoft Excel for each of these 3 countries. The one which I'm in right now, I'm going to be conducting in the research in New York, and I'm going to be asking about 20 people to pick from the 5 words which one they would feel best describes the American essence, the American vibe, perhaps the American rhetoric. And they're going to pick from the 5 words, and then I'm going to check a little checkbox next to the anonymous person. They're going to be represented as a number, and then I'm going to translate that into a pie graph and sort of represent which word was picked more through percentiles. And it's going to be interesting to see how people in other countries really view it, because I think very often we see in the news how maybe sort of political pundits in one country may view us, or our allies may view us. If it's in the UN meetings, we may see sort of that manifest. And we always see ourselves as this big powerhouse country, very loud country. It's represented by, I think, a lot of unfair cliches, as are other countries. We're not just an aberration to that. But I was on the Twitter sphere. I don't have Twitter, but when everything was sort of being catapulted into the spotlight over Notre Dame the other day, someone tweeted a picture of the plumes of smoke coming up from Notre Dame and said, "I've never seen anything aesthetically pleasing as Notre Dame burning." What an absolutely insensitive and inane thing to say, when all you need is compassion and, moving forward and, compassion and love. And someone, makes a comment like that. And I think in the French side of, French Twitter sphere of things, someone commented in French, it would be aesthetically pleasing to burn your mother. And, I was with my friend Anna at the time, and we did a rough translation on Google. And that's what came up. And, it was just really interesting. It's like, why would you say something like that? And just, it further makes the tension more taut between different groups of people when we need unity in times like that. It's not even, necessarily a terror-based attack. At least it hasn't been deemed so yet, and I really hope not. That would be really horrible. But let's hope it's not that. I don't think it is, but what do I know? Anyway, yes, I am going to Europe tomorrow. We are traveling out of Newark Airport at 9 p.m. A little bit of a red eye, although we're getting there during the day because of the 5-hour time difference. So we're flying into Heathrow, taking the wonderful underground Piccadilly line, and in the future New York City hopes to model its MTA after London's. It's very efficient. I've heard good things about it. And then we're taking the Piccadilly line to where we're staying in an Airbnb around Earl's Court. And we're staying in Airbnbs in both cities. I think it's the way to go. And one beautiful thing that my parents have done is they've used suggestions and they've used their past experience and sort of these little travel pamphlets that are very, very chic and very, very chic in a good way, very low key. Not something you would normally see from a resort, or normal things that the city would want you to do, or normal popular things. I mean, some are popular, some are very historic, but they've just created a very comprehensive, very deep itinerary of things that, it's sort of a bang for your buck of using time wisely. I think that we're going to get our fair share of, seeing, Buckingham Palace, of seeing the River Seine, of seeing Palace of Versailles, and just really places of rich history. And we're also going to see, for example, A Curious Case of the Dog in the Nighttime, which is a book that I'm reading right now, and that's going to be a play. And then we're going to see this sort of parody play where it's, I can't remember the exact word right now, but it's just going to be a little bit of a British play, sort of a British show. And I just can't wait to experience all of that. And we're going to go to, pubs and little cafes all the while. So it's going to be a really interesting experience just to be immersed in the culture. I really can't wait. I've only ever been to Mexico, and I remember I got like a little sticker in my passport. So it's going to be really interesting. And it was also, I'm very grateful because it was very easy to renew my passport. I thought it was going to be this long, drawn out, arduous process. And it proved to be very easy, very seamless. I didn't really have any struggle with it. I was able to take the pictures at Rite Aid. I was able to pay the money. It came quicker than they said it would come. It came in about 3 weeks, and they said it would take 4 to 6, and that was that. And I have my little card to travel in the Channel. That's another experience I'm really excited for. And just to see different things, especially the guards in Buckingham Palace, all these things that I've seen in mainstream media that for so long, whether it's been through, especially the Harry Potter series really romanticizes it, and I'm just very excited to see that. Another thing, looking through pictures, I'm really excited to just see how meals are served and the sort of traditions around that, because I noticed that there's these mashed up peas that are served with every meal, or with most meals in England. And not that I'm knocking peas, I don't have a problem with peas or anything, but I just find that very interesting. I find that funny in a way, because I find peas to be very neutral. And, like I've said, I'm a line cook myself, so it's going to be really interesting to see how they prepare things in the presentation of food out there. And, I'm just very excited to go to France and see the Eiffel Tower, not a replica, because there's several replicas, I think, in New York City and, all over the place that you can find. So it's gonna be pretty cool to see the real thing. And I haven't quite packed yet, but one thing I want to do, and one thing I try to do, even when I'm traveling domestically, is just trying to pack in a very minimalist way. I think too often we get hung up over trying to pack the best outfits and really continue to carry on this facade of looking good and making sure our fashion, stays like this leading force in front of us, like it's our leading personality trait, And really, although we're going to be tourists in another country, I think regardless of how we look, we just want to act a certain way. We want to speak with truth and with honesty, regardless of how we look. So I don't really care how I look. I think it's how I act, and how I just want to be polite and just be very cordial while I'm there. And I know French people and Parisians can be a bit curt, as well as people in London. It's the same. It's a very similar vibe to New York, from what I've heard. Similar type of city. They're synonymous in a lot of ways. Like New York has modeled a lot of its streets, and even places, little sub neighborhoods like Soho has been modeled after London. So it's similar in a lot of ways. But I just want to make sure that I pack very well. I use, I want to look at the weather. It can rain a lot. It can be cloudy a lot in London and Paris. So I want to make sure that I'm just using the right clothing, and make sure, above all, that my clothing is functional. I don't want to wear too much cotton, because cotton retains a lot of water. Certain things like that. I just want to, pack at the most like 6 or 7, outfits, and I'll be able to utilize washer and dryer while I'm there, I'm sure, when we're at a couple of Airbnbs. And I think it's great that we're staying at Airbnbs, so we have the ability to do so. And yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting experience in that aspect too. Definitely going to try to pack the best I can. And another thing I wanted to touch on as well is just kind of just a little bit of anxiety. Not so much when I'm going to be in London, but just a little bit of sort of pre-anxiety, we'll call it, before I go to Paris. And it just has to do with the language barrier a little bit. And I really only know about 3 phrases in French, I'd say. Merci, s'il vous plaît, and maybe that's it. Maybe it's only 2. I'm sure if I je m'appelle, which is my name is Jacob, so that is 3. And I'm sure if I learned a couple more, or if I heard a couple more, they'd be recognizable. And it is a Latin-based language, so it does have a lot of similarities to English in certain ways. It's funny enough, the other day I was talking with a friend, and the most commonly spoken language in the world is Mandarin. So that was very interesting too. There's a lot of, Asia is a very big part of the world, and there's a lot of Pacific Islander countries with a lot of those type of cultures that speak such a language like that. So I found that to be very interesting. I guess English and Spanish is next. So anyway, yeah, I know that there might be a slight language barrier, and I just want to, try to use my charisma, if I have any, and just use, my body language and my intuition the best that I can to communicate. There's multiple ways to communicate, but I do want to try my best to, interpret and to assimilate while I'm there, even though it's only going to be for 5 days. So it's going to be very interesting. I'm very excited. And like I said, just very grateful to be immersed in the culture.